Hello and welcome to Ditching Hourly. I'm Jonathan Stark. Today I am joined by Devin Renaud. Devin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jonathan, thanks.
For people who haven't met you before, could you tell everyone a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. I am a brand identity designer. I live in Ontario, Canada, and I specialize in outdoor brands. I help them um, go from looking like amateurs to looking like leaders. So I mostly help up and coming outdoor brands.
Nice. All right. And what what brought you on the show? What's the current state of your business? Where would you rather have it be? What's the transformation you'd like to have? So basically, how can I help?
Sure. I'm kind of still in the building phase. I guess I've been taking like the business side of my career serious for only probably about 2 years now. I was doing a bunch of freelance work just kind of all over the place, like everybody else at the beginning.
Hmm.
Started learning about niching down, started learning about how to run a business. That caught my attention big time, started getting really interested in that. And so now I'm kind of like, I know what I want to do, what I'm best at, who I'm best to serve. Um, I niched down into brand identity design because it was what I was best at, and it was kind of what was hardest for me. So it was an exciting challenge, and that's where I saw and was told that I provided the most value to the people that I worked with.
Oh, good.
So yeah, so that was exciting. So then I decided to niche down into brand identity design, and then I kind of mixed that with my passion of outdoors and adventure sports, and wanted to serve like-minded people like that who are also outdoorsy, entrepreneurial people who want to also like do some good in the world. I want to help them grow their brands.
Great.
So I guess the difference between where I'm at now versus where I'd love to be is I'm still not at like a steady, comfortable business state, I would say. So
Hmm.
things are kind of up and down. Like if I could land a couple projects and be feeling good, and then I could have a drought. And despite the things that I've learned about consistent outreach and building my marketing, I've only been doing some marketing strategies for maybe 5 months now. So I'm still taking some time to build, and I'm being patient. But
Hmm.
I guess where I'd like to be is more consistent um, conversations, more consistent leads, and um, that's probably the biggest change that I'd like to
Okay.
see.
Yeah, that's pretty common. And
Yeah.
what's it like well, before I go into that, congratulations on having a very clear target market. I
Well,
can,
thanks.
yeah, I can imagine people listening when, if you just said, "Oh, I'm a brand identity designer," they'd be like, "Oh, okay. I guess I know what that is probably." But they probably didn't think, "Oh, I should introduce them to someone," or "I know someone who needs that." But
Right.
as soon as you keep going into like outdoor brands or up and coming outdoor brands, that's really specific. And people's brain will immediately be like, who does that make me think of? And they have this
Right.
potentially have this Rolodex moment. So let's drill. So I don't think we need to drill too much more into that, although we could. But I'd like to get to
Okay.
know a little bit more about your products and services. Let's say you do get a lead
Yep.
and they're ideal, they're right in your target market. What sorts of things would you do for them? Meaning, the structure of it. Would it just be a custom project every time, or do you have packaged productized services like, for $10,000, I'll do your brand identity, including X, Y, and Z? Or is there, do you have different sorts of offerings like that, or is it just kind of shoot from the hip every time?
Yeah. It's customized usually every time, depending on what kind of situation the client is in. But it's kind of based off of a core product. So usually when a client comes to me and they're like the right fit, they need like the core assets of a brand identity. And then depending on where they're at with their marketing or content, then maybe I'll add in some other deliverables that they can use for those things as well. Um, as part of a lead magnet, I also have a checklist that kind of gives them a score of where their brand identity is at currently.
Hmm.
And it kind of tells them if you're growing rapidly and you're looking to be taken more seriously, and you're kind of feeling like you're not looking as professional as you'd like to, but you're also crunched for time and you're kind of scrambling because sometimes that's the state that they're in.
Hmm.
I've built this tool, so I just send it to them for free. They go through a checklist. Yeah, we have that, don't have that, we don't have this, and it gives them a score saying this is the bare minimum that you'll need to have in order to be seen as professional and in order to be able to scale your identity across all the platforms that you're seen on. So I have
Hmm.
that as like I guess you could say it's a product. It's kind of like a small, simple, it's like a 3-minute quiz, little lead magnet. And then the core product that I offer is, yeah, usually they'll come on the call. They'll give me a rundown of the problems they're having. I'll tell them how I've usually solved those problems. And then I'll offer 3 different solutions like you've talked about based
Hmm.
on this is the most I can do for you. And somewhere in the middle, here's also something I can do. And then here's the least I can do for you if you're looking for a smaller budget type deal. But all of those are based around the core identity assets that they will need to be seen as more professional, get taken more seriously, all that good stuff.
Hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, I also
Mm-hmm.
like that you have a specific kind of outcome in their minds. It's like you're an up and coming brand and you want to be taken more seriously. So there's a little bit of a
Yeah,
combination of a vertical niche and a psychographic. It's like it's not everybody who runs an outdoor brand. It's ones that
right.
are at this stage where they're like, we really need to up our game, be taken more seriously. In So is it strictly? Well, yeah. Let's go into the core assets a little bit. What are we talking
Okay.
about?
Yeah. So for core assets, it's usually things like we'll dive into the purpose of their brand. So I'll help them get clear on their long-term vision, what their mission actually is, how they can articulate that to their audience. Sometimes I'll help them with their positioning as well, like maybe their
Hmm.
positioning statement. So I'll help them how to talk about that.
Hmm.
And then the usual things like logo design, typography, color palettes, um, coming up with like a a clever brand concept that they can apply to like marketing initiatives and all that good stuff. Sometimes it's animated versions of their logo, all the different logo layouts that they'll need so that it can be applied to any kind of orientation.
Hmm.
And then finally, a brand guidelines booklet so that they can pawn that off to whoever's working with them. And then they'll know exactly what to do with the assets that we've created so that they
Nice.
can use that. Yeah, moving forward.
Okay, so how do you split that out across the 3 options? Are they sort of deliverables based or is it phases?
Yeah, it's mostly deliverables based, I guess. Usually the first cheapest option, or I guess it's the last cheapest option, is like the bare minimum that I would recommend that they do in order to solve their problem. Because I could sell them a logo, right? But like a conversation I had with somebody just the other day, I could just sell them a logo, but it doesn't really solve their identity problem because they still won't know what to do with it or where to use it. And they won't have different um, versions of the logo for sizing and things like that. So
Hmm.
the cheapest option is usually the bare minimum deliverables that I would recommend they have for their identity. And then
Hmm.
the most expensive option is kind of more diving into their problem with more detail.
Hmm.
And it usually is, I guess it is just more deliverable. So could be me helping them create some marketing material based on those identity guidelines, or helping them like roll out their new identity across wherever their platforms are. Like I'll
Right.
help their web designer apply it, and then I'll apply it to their social media and all that stuff, help with the rollout. Um, I've even offered some promotional marketing. So sometimes people like to build some hype around their new identity
Yeah.
release. So I help with building some content for that. So yeah, it's just kind of more deliverables, really.
Okay, so I was happy to hear that you mentioned that you get into that sort of bigger picture stuff, the purpose, mission, strategic marketing aspects,
Mm-hmm.
positioning. Is that something you typically would do in all? Would that be included in all 3 options, or is that something that you would reserve for the highest priced option?
Yeah, that's something that I do include in the cheapest option too. Maybe not positioning things,
Hmm.
but the mission, purpose, vision, those things. Yeah, because that helps me create an identity that's meaningful. So those are pretty important for whatever project I'm working on.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't have that information to be like,
Yeah, because then then I could create something that's not meaningful to them. Then they might have to do it again later on when they really do get serious or whatever happens.
hmm
Yeah.
okay. And when you do these proposals, are they fixed price or are they kind of like, oh, I think it'll be this many hours at this hourly rate?
Yeah, fixed price. Been
Right.
doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you give it? I don't want to, put you on the spot, but I'm curious, like just
Go for it.
order of magnitude, like what, or let's put it like this: what would be a great size project dollar wise for you?
A great one that I have, like the biggest project I've landed so far has been $6,000.
Okay.
I just pitched one yesterday for 15,000. The middle option was 10. The lowest was 6,000.
hmm
Because they were a bigger business, more of the brands that I can help more. Actually, like I can help bigger businesses better than startups and stuff. And it was interesting because this person is the CEO. They had to talk to the founders,
hmm
and I'm gonna have to try to get them on the call later. But he was talking about how the budget's not a problem at all. The founders are just not business oriented, and he was saying how he felt like this is too professional of a proposal, and they're not going to understand any of it. And he said it's not the budget that's the problem at all. He said this will help. This will fix our problem. I just don't know how to articulate that in a way to get their heads around it to get them to spend the time toward it. Yeah, which was a first for me, but a good project honestly would be like 8 to 10,000 would be
hmm
good.
hmm
That would be that'd be a nice size project.
Okay. And what's that look like in terms of time commitment for you and for them? So if somebody went, full bore top option, it's 10 grand and how much time do they have to spend? How much time do you have to spend before you get to the place where they feel like it's a big success?
Sure. For the top board, like I'll just refer to the one that I was just talking about, the
hmm
$15,000 option. That one, I think it would take. I think I said 12 to 14 weeks.
Yeah.
That would take me, like, if I wanted to do a project like that plus another one at the same time while working on the business, like my own business still.
hmm
I think that would be doable. I don't really know how long it would take, to be honest. It might vary.
hmm
Um, but for them, it would probably take only 3 hours a week for them to be on calls. Like usually a call would last an hour, and I might need them on the phone 3 times a week
hmm
to keep things rolling. Because yeah, I like to try to keep things moving quickly. So I guess probably 3 hours a week. So what is that? 3 times 12. I'm not a mathematician here.
Yeah. 36, right. So okay, so
36 hours. Yeah.
not a huge time commitment, but it's also not nothing for them.
hmm
Uh, is
Yeah.
is that
That
ever
was. It's.
problematic?
I was just gonna say it's interesting because one of my bigger projects from before, I was working with some people that were very busy, but they were, I guess they saw more value in it, so they carved out the time. And the person that I just was chatting with was worried because this is their busy season, and he was saying the founders are having trouble finding time to even talk to him, their CEO. So he was
Mhm.
saying he's doubtful that they'll want to spend any time on something like this.
Right.
So I guess it is a constraint sometimes for them.
hmm Yeah, I can imagine that because if you're working with the sort of top dog at the brand at the company, they're typically super busy, especially if
Yeah,
they're in like
exactly.
growth phase. They got a million things going on.
That's yeah,
Yeah, so that's interesting. I'm not surprised by that. It might be something to look at in the future in terms of getting
yeah,
things accepted.
right.
It's also interesting to note that the person you spoke to said budget's not a problem for this at all. And in fact, the based on your target market, the stage of business that they're at, and I looked at your website before. This stuff looks beautiful. So it's
Oh,
kind of
thanks.
I was surprised how low these prices are, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, and I know it's
Okay.
not like, I mean, you're more interested right now in more leads, but I think you could also increase your prices. And that's,
Okay.
yeah. And that's
Sweet.
just, it's not based on any research at all. It's just a gut instinct. But, my reaction to when I think you said 8K first or 6K first, I was like, whoa, that's way too low.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's maybe because, and I've been working on this, is my mindset is because I used to do like even just a year ago, if I would land $1,000 project, I was super pumped.
Hmm.
And then when I started talking to some people, and I would get into the value conversation, and I would start talking about their revenue and their revenue goals.
Hmm.
And people started saying, you know, we're doing like 2 million in revenue, or we're doing 4
Right.
million. And I'm thinking, dang, like if I'm going to rebrand their entire business
Yeah, exactly.
and like help them look professional and long term make a lot more money, what should I like? I wonder what the capacity is here that I could be that I could be making. And then I also started thinking, because there has been some friction, like the guy that I just mentioned.
Hmm.
um I was looking up to them as like this would be a big job, but then I hear back from them that they're thinking, like he said, we might not be ready for this, we might not be at the stage that the business is ready for this. And I'm thinking, oh dang, like so who should I be talking to then? Like I don't
Hmm.
know, maybe that's the disconnect then, I'm not sure.
It could be. I mean, it's really hard for me to say for sure, but my reaction was that like, wow, that seems low for a business. And again, I'm making tons of assumptions. Like, I assume
Right,
the
yeah.
business would probably be at least 5 million. And so maybe do tell me a little bit more about a really good fit business for you. How many employees do they have? Do they have retail outlets? What kind of things do they sell? Is it like excursions or is it boots? Like what are the
Yeah,
different?
like that's something that I'm not really clear on yet. Mostly I've just learned that the people that I've talked to, who when they tell me about the problems they're having, it's like, oh, you have a brand identity issue, and it's holding you back from moving forward. So sometimes it is retail. Sometimes if they're doing like wholesale products, and like the person that I talked to last, they got some smaller orders than they expected, because the people said um, that they don't like they're not a hockey brand, so they're not looking to work with a lot of hockey brands. So people are thinking that they're a hockey brand when they want to be more broad than that. So
Mm,
people are confused about what kind of business they really are, and they don't have a clear brand identity. Like they don't even have a main logo. So
hmm.
when they apply their branding to different apparel pieces that they sell in like sets to teams and stuff,
Hmm.
the people that they sell them to, they buy smaller orders, or they have been, because they're a little bit disappointed with um, the different logos that they're giving them. Like it's not clear. They were like, oh, we thought we'd get this logo. We've never seen this one before,
Hmm.
and so it's like actually hurting the business. So um, the I'll guess at how many people might be in the business. Like I would say at least 5 employees,
Hmm.
um, maybe like 5 to 20. I did a job for an engineering firm, and I think they had 35 employees, but they were far more, they were way further along in their careers than this other person that I'm talking to
Hmm.
currently. So I don't remember what they were making though. I don't remember what their revenue was. I'm guessing it's more than 5 million. They were pretty big.
Hmm.
They've been doing it for like 30 years or something crazy. So
Wow.
yeah, I don't know. I'm not super clear on that yet. Basically the state of the business that I'm clear on is like they're out of the startup phase. Um, they've already like built a reputation, they're doing well, and they want to take their business to the next level now. So they want to start competing with like market leaders in their space.
Hmm.
And the difference between them and market leaders is that these market leaders are more recognized like kind of around the world,
Hmm.
or at least in their area, and they don't look the same as them. So that's what I help them with, is I help them look like they're competing with leaders.
That's
And then I
great.
set them up for like the next whatever 5 years of their growth, or 10 years, whatever.
This is great. Like so the specificity of the business outcomes here is really good. And
Okay.
they're sort of intangible in the sense it's like on the one hand you're talking about, oh, you're going to get a brand style guide and logo and business cards and all that.
Right.
But saying something like, oh, I'll set you up for the next 5 years of growth, business growth, and help you compete on an equal footing with the leaders in your category.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff founders get. Like a founder's going to be like,
Okay.
yes. It's
Yeah.
like compared to like, I'm going to give you a logo. It's like,
Right.
okay, I could do that on my computer
They don't care
too.
about that at all. Yeah.
Right. Um,
Yeah.
all right.
And it's also like I'm trying to do the same thing for myself. So that was one of the things that I wanted to do this year was lead by example. So now I'm trying to build my own brand to say, this is how I've done this for myself. I'll help you do it too. Like I've been making myself look like a leader.
Hmm.
Yeah, even though I'm just kind of still starting out. So
Sure.
trying to help them with that.
So, just to give me a little bit more clarity, what's
Yep.
an example of someone of a brand that I might have heard of that a client that's a good fit for you would be competing with? Are we talking about Patagonia or is it something?
Yeah, it's not that big. I wonder if I could pull up quick notes. It also depends on where they're from. Like sometimes they've talked about brands that are running like an outdoor wetsuit market, but I've
Mhm.
never heard of them because they're from the UK.
Yeah.
So I've sometimes people mention brands that they aspire to be. So they'll mention things like Patagonia or um, I don't know, North Face, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like they aspire to be like that. Um,
Okay, that's good. I just wanted to make sure I was in the right department.
okay, yeah,
And you said that they sometimes retail, definitely wholesale or often wholesale. Is it commonly apparel or have you worked with anyone or would you work with someone that does like excursions or like, climb Everest and we help you climb up Everest or get ready for it?
yeah, that would be awesome too. I started off talking to people who were in like the sustainability business, but I wasn't sure if I connected with them well enough. So I've also talked with people who are in like the travel industry. Yeah, people who um, run travel businesses who plan trips and or they do like mountain bike excursions or
Right.
outdoor activities. Yeah, I've definitely talked to some people like that.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think there is some potential for maybe even a little bit more. I don't know if it's necessary, but maybe a little bit more specificity in the outdoor brands.
Right.
If it was apparel, that would be
Yeah.
that, it might that you it's not impossible to over focus. I think the outdoor brands thing is pretty clear,
Okay.
especially when you throw in things like, outdoor brands that are, growing. They've got maybe 10, 15 employees, maybe more, maybe less, but they're at that phase where they want to start competing with the big boys in their market, and they know that their current do they think of it as like their current website is holding them back, or or are they generally talking in terms of like our brand is a mess? Like, do they know that or
Yeah, they do. So I'll just keep using the guy that I just talked to a couple of days ago because he's fresh in my mind.
Mhm.
So he was hired by these owners to be the CEO and like run the business because these guys they kind of just started a business for fun, not really knowing it was going to be a business. And then
Mhm.
so he kind of helped clean things up. So that's what he was saying is because he's more business oriented. It's his findings are that their brand identity is becoming more and more messy,
Mhm.
and they're getting confused by it. Their customers are getting confused by it. So he knows what the problem is.
Yeah.
And yeah, after I talked to him, he knows how to solve it.
Mhm.
So I guess, yeah, I guess they do know that their brand is a bit of a mess. Or what's more common too is that people feel like their brand isn't up to par. So it's like not as professional as they feel like their business is. So they just want to look more professional than they do right now.
Yep. Okay, great. Um, all right, so let's switch over to leads. Where do you
Okay.
currently get your leads from? Like, where did this particular one come from?
This lead was a referral, and this is probably my biggest problem. Um, I've been focusing on LinkedIn mostly.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's because when I started, I was like, I want to work with professional people. So I think a lot of people will be on LinkedIn because it's a little bit more, I don't know, I guess professional, you could say.
Hmm.
So my lead strategy is like right now, I'm sending out my lead magnet, like my tool, just to hope that some people find some value in it, and then I don't know, maybe they follow me and then they like my content, whatever. I'm just trying to help them get a clear understanding of why their identity is lacking and what they need. Maybe they need to think about it later on.
Hmm.
So I send that out. Um, I go on pages on LinkedIn like Patagonia or North Face, like market leaders, and I go through comments and I just connect with people. Hey, I noticed you like this page. I'm a big fan too. And we start chatting.
Hmm.
And I'm
Okay.
chatting to like founders and CEOs
Yep.
only, really.
Hmm.
That works really well. People get chatting from there. Sometimes I'll reach out saying, I'm looking to learn. I'm conducting some market research for founders in the outdoors industry. I'm looking to learn about what their mission is.
Hmm.
Like, would you be open to a quick call? That has worked. That hasn't really been lately.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much it for leads. Like I started a newsletter. I've been doing that for a couple months now. I think I have, I do 3 posts a week
Hmm.
for my marketing content on Instagram and LinkedIn, or sorry, and yeah, and LinkedIn. And those are based around like a post that is helpful for them, a post that is insightful, and maybe like an engagement post. So asking them something about the industry or trying to get people to interact.
Hmm.
So that's pretty much my entire lead strategy. And I would definitely like to be having more conversations and more calls with these people so I can kind of collect more data, learn about them, create more relationships. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. And do you have testimonials from existing clients, case
Yep.
studies, anything like that?
Yeah. I'm waiting on another one from a good project from last year, but I have like 3 solid testimonials. I have more from the past, but they're not for any projects that I have posted because they were from before. So not really the
Right.
projects that I want to get.
Right.
So I have like 2 solid ones waiting on a third.
Cool. All right. And well, I think it's interesting. I wonder if this is one of those target markets where the it's like maybe it's just because it's fresh in my mind. You're just talking about the founders who don't, they started the business as like not as a business and they're like kind
Yeah.
of busy. It's like, well, yeah, are these sort of outdoorsy people going to be outdoorsy and tough to like they don't go online as much or
Yeah. I don't
or
know.
what?
Maybe.
So where
Yeah.
would people like that talk shop? Like where would they hang out with other people like them and talk shop? Is there a conference that everybody goes to, or some podcast they all listen to, or some thought leader that they all think is really got good ideas? Anything like that?
Um, when I was trying to think of where they would be living at,
Hmm.
I was thinking maybe Instagram because like the only things that I really follow on Instagram are things that or accounts that post really nice photos or like
Right.
they post cool videos of being outside. So that was the first place I thought
Hmm.
of. I'm not really sure about podcasts. Like I don't really listen to any outdoorsy podcasts.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not sure about conferences either. I know there's like some pretty big sustainability conferences
Hmm.
that I'm sure most of them would be interested in because it's very common that these people care a lot about the environment and climate change and stuff. So they like
Hmm.
to hear about things like that. That's what kind of drove me to look into sustainability, but I'm not really sure where else. Um, I don't know. Like people, when I reach out to market leading pages and I comment and I say, "Hey, I saw you like this, whatever," people answer all the time. So that's
Hmm.
been good. It's just sometimes I'm not very good at getting them on the phone or at asking them about what their problems are and then they stop answering. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be too pushy, but
Right.
it's also like, yeah, sometimes you get into that scarcity mindset. So,
Right.
but I don't know where
What
else they could be living. Yeah, I don't know.
do you know off the top of your head what your headline is on your LinkedIn?
Yeah. I think it is. You mean like my about or just my
The
headline?
above that, the little like tagline under your name.
Okay. It says helping up and coming outdoor brands go from looking like amateurs to leaders in 8 weeks.
Wow, that's good. It's a little bit long for LinkedIn,
Okay.
so but that's very specific. And dear listener, note that it gives a presumably a desirable outcome. It's not like I can do your logo. It's
Right.
like it's a desirable business outcome, and it makes a sort of remarkable claim of a specific time frame. So it's like, wow, geez, it projects confidence, and it also feels it makes it feel realer is not the right word. It makes it feel like it wouldn't be this. It makes it feel more tangible. So like oh, I have a sense of how long this would take. That it would have a
Right.
beginning, a middle, and an end. It wouldn't be very far away. Considering all things considered, it's like, huh, geez, okay. So the issue with it being kind of long is that in many places in the interface, the key piece is going to get truncated, and it's going to
Right.
be chopped off. It is good. I wish there was a way to make it a little shorter, um, but that is really
Thanks.
good. Yeah,
Thanks.
cool.
Yeah, the reason I threw in, because this was something that I was thinking, I haven't really heard this from like people in my niche, but I was thinking when you work with like a bigger agency and they do something like this, it could take months and months, like 6 to 12 months, because they have people to go through. You got more hoops to jump through, if you're working with a bigger agency. So that's why I wanted to throw in the 8 week thing, is because they are so busy and they are so time sensitive. I
Yeah,
wanted to let them know like this is a quick transformation. Like
yeah,
8 weeks isn't very long. So that's what I was trying to go for there, but I'm not sure
yeah,
how it's been working.
yeah. I mean, it's hypothetically, it's really good. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, if I was working with someone and they were like, "Oh, what about this?" I'd be like, "Yeah, let's try that."
Right.
Um,
Okay.
so yeah, maybe if there's a way to kind of wordsmith it to get it squished down to more like 8 or 9 words, it might not be
Okay.
possible, but maybe 12. Um,
I'll try. Yeah.
yeah, because then when you're chatting with people, it's like you're wearing this T-shirt that says, "I can help you with this." Or
Right.
I help people like you with this specifically so that, you're not being pushy, you don't have to bug them, but
Right.
they're just going to hit them in the face and it's just like, oh, wow, that
Yeah.
would be
It's kind
really
of
cool.
like, yeah, I have another version of that, I guess, on my website. Like my landing page says, just waiting for it to load here, a little slow. I think it says, oh, here it is. Look professional, get taken seriously, and make a bigger impact. And then underneath it says identity design for your up and coming outdoors brand. So I've thought about writing like I help, but then it's still kind
Yeah.
of a few things. Yeah,
Yeah.
anyways, I could work on it.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, you've got all the puzzle pieces there. I like it. It's like a
Okay.
nice mix
Thanks.
of specific target market and specific desirable outcome. And it's like, and it gives the category of like how you would do it, your discipline. So, all right. So
Right.
it seems
Thanks, man.
like, sure. Yeah. Um, so leads is the main thing. So for me, I would be like, all right, where are these people hanging out and how can I become like for somebody that does the kind of work that you do, you need to become famous to the people in the target market.
Right.
So that you'll get, that you'd have more leads. So just like you wouldn't have to be doing outreach or
That would
messing
be
around on
amazing.
LinkedIn, right? Yeah, it'd be great.
God,
It's like a
it
pipeline of
takes so
leads.
long. Yeah.
Yeah, so mailing list is good. It's a good frequency. You didn't say how many signups you have, but you haven't been doing it very long. Do you know, is it just you and your friends, or is there?
It's me, and I have two signups
Yeah,
so
so
far.
right.
Yeah.
So a couple of things you could do in your interaction with people on LinkedIn, because that's the one place that you for sure interact with people. I think Instagram also makes sense,
Okay.
but I like your reasoning that maybe the more professional people would tend toward LinkedIn more than Instagram. So interacting with them, maybe a question that you could ask would be about trade associations or conferences or virtual events or um, that sort of thing. And what could you ask them? You could say something like, "Hey, I'm thinking about," like if you knew of a conference, you could say like, "Oh, I'm thinking about maybe advertising at a conference. Is this a good one?" Or "I'm thinking about going to a conference. Is this a good one?"
Right.
Um,
Okay.
or where you could just ask them, like when you're talking shop, where do you go? Is there anybody you follow online that's really got good insights for people like you? Yeah, it's hard. But
Yeah, that's sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, the conference thing, if you could find a conference thing and you spidered that website going around and finding all of the other people in not in your space, but the other people who are talking to your same audience, they could be, I don't know, manufacturers, right? Or
Right.
what other, it could be like somebody in the accounting space or or e-commerce or something like that, and find those people that are reaching that audience that are perhaps 2 or 3 years ahead of you, and find out where they pop up online. So if Joe Blow is selling fractional CFO services to outdoor brands, up and coming outdoor brands, then like, okay, Google for Joe Blow webinar, Joe Blow podcast, Joe Blow, conference or speaker or whatever, or maybe go to his website and look and see if there's a list of past events that they've been to. So like find someone who's
Right.
already gone down the path of reaching these people and figure out where they are congregating or
Okay.
where they're paying attention is really what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's one thing that I was thinking is that I was wondering, like, because I know that I have a group of people that I listen to or watch all the time, and like you're subscribed to their email list, whatever. And I was
Hmm.
thinking that I guess I could just ask these people, like, where do you like to learn things about business, or like, where do you like to? Because I'm guessing they're interested in that if they're running businesses.
It could be that. It could be who you're following on Instagram, or you could find someone that you interact with on Instagram and just go look. I think you can see on Instagram who they're following. You
Yeah, I
just,
think so.
yeah. So looking for other kind of like solopreneur brands that are selling to the same audience would be something worth doing.
Okay.
It occurs to me that for the people I work with that are a little bit more design heavy, like the sort of 3D graphics people and the animators
Hmm.
and even architects, there are some sort of shiny, glossy, air quotes, magazines online that everybody reads. So like,
Okay.
so they're basically blogs, but they're so polished and serious that you would call them maybe more of a media property.
Yeah,
So there might be, I would imagine there's got to be some equivalent in this space because it'll be
I can think
really,
of a couple already,
oh, good.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one
Yeah.
that's just called Outdoor,
Hmm.
or there's one that's called like Cottage Life, and but that's an actual magazine, I think.
I think outdoor is too, right?
I think so. Yeah.
But they almost surely have some kind of online presence. So you could go there and start to look for, it's hard to say, you just sort of like be familiar with it, notice any names, so like people, and say like, okay, maybe this person is interesting. This person got into this magazine, or this person is the editor of this magazine,
Right.
and become familiar with the almost this the actual social network, not the Facebook or the Instagram social network, but like the network of people that are around this audience. and
Okay.
and you can get a surprising amount of ideas by just saying like, oh, okay, look, oh, this person is fractional CFO for outdoor brands, or whatever, process automation for outdoor retail manufacturing,
Yep.
and and they are apparently guest blogging over here. Maybe I can guest blog too. Maybe I could pitch the editor on a piece to, with your checklist, for example.
Right. Okay.
Um, and even if they didn't, even having a conversation with that person about that prospect, even if they say no, which is probably more likely than not that they would say no, might give
Yep.
you some really interesting information that would help you create a better pitch for a submission like that.
Right. Right.
I Again, this is just gut instinct, but I'm guessing based on your market that that route might be better than my normal favorite route, which is guesting on podcasts.
Okay.
Somehow I can't picture your people like being outdoors with earbuds in. It feels like they would
Right.
be more like, no, I want to be outside. But I could be wrong. So if you can find out where they're paying attention to stuff when they're thinking about business stuff, then that would be a great place to start to show up.
Right.
And obviously, link back to your site and so forth. I think once you get someone to your site, it's very clear. Like your messaging is very clear. Your targeting is very clear. The work looks really good. So it's kind of like a question of getting them to the site, getting the right people to the site at the right time.
Yeah, the timing too. Yeah, that's what I felt like. It's just like feels like a gap from like I've built this whole structure and place of like my process and who's it for and why and what do they get and whatever. But then it's like, yeah, finding those people and having conversations with them regularly is the hardest part,
Hmm.
or has been. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is a big gap.
Yeah. Yep. So I think interacting with these folks, asking editors at magazines about conferences, professional or trade organizations, I think might be another good approach. I'm
Okay.
thinking of someone who I worked with that was focused on the co-working space, and it turns out there's like a national or even international, I think it's a global organization that serves people who run co-working spaces.
Okay.
And that very, very quickly, if you make an impact, let's say you get invited to speak at a virtual summit or something about brand identity for up and coming outdoor brands, like
Yep.
all of a sudden, everybody in the entire space has heard of you.
Right.
So,
Oh, that'd be so cool.
yeah, so I don't know if there's probably different ones for different aspects of of what we've talked about so far in terms of the target market. So people who just do sort of manufacture apparel for outdoor activities is probably a different organization than people who organize excursions into the Grand Canyon,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
probably a different organization from people who run bricks and mortar retail
Yeah.
around the country. So, or people who are doing direct to consumer with some kind of a Shopify or e-commerce platform. They're probably all different trade associations. But
Mm,
if you could find a conference, or you could find a magazine that serves those audiences, you might find that like the trade associations are like a platinum sponsor, or some kind of like media sponsor. Sometimes it'll be called media sponsors, where they're just doing a free trade thing where they give each other ads. So you could probably
okay.
identify them pretty quickly if you could just find anything, any one of those things, which might be something to talk about when you do have a live wire on LinkedIn or an Instagram. Be like, hey, do you belong to any trade organizations? That's actually a very non-threatening question. Like, do you belong to any trade associations, trade organizations? I'm looking to familiarize myself more with the space.
Okay.
And yeah, in fact, I just released a podcast episode with Paul Boag, who told a great story about he wanted to do exactly what I'm saying. He found a trade organization for, I think it was higher ed, in the UK, and he tried to join the thing, and the person who ran the list was like, "No, thank you. You're just going to sell stuff to us," because he was a designer too, web designer.
Okay.
And so he reached back out, and he said, I swear I'm not going to I won't post anything. I just want to learn more about the space. If I don't post anything, would it be okay if I join the list? And the guy reluctantly said okay. So he was on the list. He Eventually, people were asking questions that he could answer, so he wrote up an
Mm.
answer and sent it to the list owner and said, this person asked this question. Here's my answer. Is it okay if I post it? The guy said, he said, yeah, this is okay. And he kept on doing that, running it by the list owner. Eventually, the list owner was like, you don't have to ask me anymore. You can just post.
Sweet.
Yeah. So fast forward,
That's hilarious.
he ended up keynoting the industry conference for 10 years.
Holy.
Yeah. So if that would be, and they ended up dominating the industry so much so that no one would hire them anymore, because they had worked with like 80% of higher ed in the country. And it was like, you can't hire these guys. You can't hire Headscape. It's like everybody hires Headscape. Let's get something new,
Oh my God.
right?
That's hilarious.
So
New problem.
no problem. Yeah.
New challenge. Yeah.
Right. So he did it in another vertical. He just did the exact same thing in another vertical. So
Wow.
yeah, so that feels like something I would explore. If in your
Okay.
shoes, given your situation, that's something I would explore. I have to imagine that there's some kind of association or something. It
There's
could
got to be something.
There's got to be. And if there
Yeah, it's
isn't,
something I haven't tried or thought of at
if
all.
there isn't, guess who's going to start one? You are.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
that has worked for, I've seen that work as well, where people look and look and look, they can't find a watering hole. So I said, well, why don't you just start like a Slack room, and people can talk about this stuff? And he's like, really? And sure enough, yeah, you can you start your own. Like, if there is no watering hole, start one.
Right. That'd be really
Just a
cool.
free thing, either a mailing list or whatever's appropriate for these people. Maybe it's a LinkedIn group, private LinkedIn group,
Right.
a Slack room, a Discord, whatever is the easiest thing for them.
Right. Hmm. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Dang.
Yeah,
All right. I
yeah.
got some work
So,
to, got some digging to do.
yeah, yeah. I find it kind of fun, like Googling around. It feels like a little bit like detective work.
Yeah, for sure it is. Yeah. And I'm confident that I think I'll probably find some place where it's like, oh, why didn't I think of that? And then I'll be like, of course, that's the freaking watering hole or whatever, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Cool. Okay, so has this been helpful, do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I knew it would be.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. Is there anything else? I know we're running a little long. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask before we wrap up?
Um, I guess How did you? I'm sure you had a following before. I'll try to make this quick too. I'm sure you had a following before. Maybe you started an emailing list, but how did you grow that? Because I don't want to like just pepper my marketing with follow this emailing list thing,
Hmm.
but I also want to just let like show examples of it and let people know what it's like and just um, grow it with my because I have a decent little following on LinkedIn. I'd love to just get more people onto my mailing list.
Hmm. So initially, I think it's about being extraordinarily clear about what the promise is because people are reluctant to like have another message in their inbox because it's usually
Okay.
a war zone for everyone. So you want to be really clear what the promise is, and then every time they see your name and they open that email, you deliver on the promise.
Okay.
And then they're glad every time. They're glad every
Right.
time they read it. So for me, that's always been like keep the emails boiled down and as short as possible so that it's a really low bar to clear. If
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
long email, it needs to be like amazing for someone to be like, wow, I'm really glad I spent 10 minutes reading that,
Yeah. I
right?
found that on some that I've even followed. It's really quickly. I'm uninterested. I've pretty much honestly based mine around your structure because yours is really the only, yours and Rochelle's are the only emailing lists that I'm excited to open, I would say.
Yeah, and I'm just copying Seth Godin. It's like wow, you can write emails this short. Wow,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And it's awesome.
Thank you. That's great. So clear promise and then deliver on the promise every time, and that will keep people engaged and subscribed. And then it's like it's a grind. There's the only times I've had noticeable spike in subscriptions are when I do a launch and when I'm in front of somebody else's audience. So
Oh, okay.
once you have the list, the mechanics set up, and your focus and your promise and everything, you're like, okay, this is working. Then you can, when you launch stuff, people, you'd launch it, it would be mentioned on social media. Most likely, people are gonna retweet it or whatever, reshare it. So there's something about launches that gets people excited. Something new is happening. It's like news, and it causes people to spread the word. So it's weird because you'd think, well, I need to have a big list to have a successful launch, but actually the launch is the thing that grows the list. It's backwards.
Okay, okay.
And then the other thing is going on other people's shows or speaking to other people's audiences, however that might work in your space. But yeah, if I go on a big show and do a good job turning light bulbs on for people, then they want to hear more. And whenever I do something like that, my call to action is almost always the same thing, which is, the next time somebody asks you for your hourly rate, stop what you're doing and go to valuepricingbootcamp.com and
Mm.
sign up for my free 6-day crash course on value pricing.
Oh,
So
okay.
people are like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that, and
Right.
um, and it's just, and what the cool thing about podcasts, especially, is they have a tendency to stick around forever. They have a really long tail.
Yeah.
So if it turns out that people in your space do listen to particular shows and you go on that show and then new people find that show and sort of binge listen through the back catalog, people seem to do that. So
Okay.
so going on other people's shows, whether it's a podcast or a video blog or whatever, is it's a good long-term strategy. It is a long game. It takes a while for those, onesie twosies to turn into tens and twenties. And
Right.
um, but if you've got this big body of work, it is just going to attract people over time if you are keeping the promise that you made up front, and they're just like
Right.
always be happy that they read it or listened to it.
Yeah. Okay. All
Um,
right. Cool.
yeah, great. All right. So thanks for joining me. And that's it for this week. I'm Jonathan Stark, and I hope you join me again next time on Ditching Hourly. Bye.